Yes, hello. Good afternoon, Harlem and Harlems of the world. I'm Terri Wisdom, and this is Harlem Network News. And it's literally a great day in Harlem. I'm just coming from Grant's Tomb. We're Harlem Week that started on Friday with the seniors was going on, and it was just an amazing event. People were out. The weather was just perfect. Ray Chu was playing, and people were really enjoying, which is helpful in these stressful times. And as many of you know, Harlem Network News started at the onset of COVID, and we are still here. We jumped in the deep water at the onset of COVID because folks were walking around Harlem saying, "I'm Black, I can't get it." So we thought it was super important to make sure that people were informed and engaged, and knowledge is power. Today, I have with us, well, before I even go into that, I want to make sure that everyone knows that we actually have our second primary going on. So that's very interesting because we haven't had that before. So it's our second primary, and our early voting started on Saturday the 13th. It'll go through to the 21st. And excuse me. And we will actually have our actual primary on the 23rd. So forgive me. Woo, too much air conditioning. But in any case, we want everybody to know that the state Senate office is up, and as well as Congress. And we have Shana Harmongoff here with us, who's running for State Senator District 30. Please say hi to everyone.
Hi, everyone. And thank you so much, Ms. Terri Wisdom, for having me. This is my, I think, third or fourth time on your show in different capacities. I think I did one with my AKA sisters, and then the last time when I was running for the special election. So I'm truly thankful that you asked me to be a part of the show so that your community and my community can know more about who I am. I think you're muted.
Yeah, I am. On that note, please just share with us who you are and whose you are, and what made you take this journey for a second time,
Yes.
in a way, for the state Senate for District 30. And if you could also outline that particular district, what are the boundaries? Thank you.
So I'll first tell everyone who I am. I'm Shana Harmongoff, candidate for New York State Senate, and that covers Harlem, a little bit of East Harlem. Now we got a lot of the old District 30, East Harlem. We don't have as much as that. We have Upper West Side, but not as much as Upper West Side. And we have more of West Harlem now. So that's what our district comprises of. And on the West Harlem side, we go all the way down from 100th Street all the way to 155th Street. And in East Harlem, it varies a little bit because on 5th Avenue and Madison and Park, and even Lexington Avenue, we go from 112th Street on up. And then third and second, we have it's a little bit shorter from the districts, from like 122nd to like 125th Street. But the district is we have all of Central Harlem and pretty much all of West Harlem now. So that's the district. I was born and raised in Harlem, Central Harlem. I live in Esplanade Gardens on 145th and Lenox. Building 6 is what they call our building, which is right by the bridge. And my parents had both me and my siblings volunteering very early when I was about 8 years old. They had us volunteering at nursing homes and senior centers, which is why a lot of the senior citizens today call me an honorary junior senior. I absolutely love that title. I have 2 children, a son who's 21 and a daughter who's 18. And I love the title of junior senior very much, right? But I knew I wanted to do more on a legislative level. then just hand out meals and clothing to the community. So then I went on to law school, where I received my master's and Juris Doctorate degree. And upon graduating, I moved back to New York, where I started working the public sector and government for a previous state senator. And I got to hear the needs of the community, being the district office director and director of community affairs, which actually shaped my platform, which is mental health, housing the homeless, and preventing gun violence. And I got to talk to a lot of the homeless or people that needed housing who didn't have a place to live on the streets. And it touched me. And I said, that was what I wanted my platform to be, along with mental health. Mental health has been something that I've talked about before even coming into politics or government. That's what people know me for, is being someone who cares about senior citizens and someone who's an advocate for mental health.
Okay. So thank you. And, that brings us into some of the issues, the concerns that we have here in our District 30. But could you share a little bit about when and how the redistricting took place? Because I think that's what really drove us to come to this second primary. And I know there are some hearings that are coming up that I believe our Councilwoman Christian Jordan is involved with. So if you could just talk a little bit about that. And just because we want everyone to truly be informed, what is redistricting and why did this happen?
Right. So the redistricting comes with like the census. They get when people don't fill out the census or don't do the census properly, or if you do, the redistricting happens, right? And so the hearing that you have that's coming up for the city council lines, that's for city council, but the lines for the state senate and congressional lines are the ones that were set. The reason why our election for state senate and Congress was moved in from June to August was because the courts had found that the Democrats had gerrymandered the lines, is what they said. And so the courts had ordered a special master to redraw the lines and push our election for state senate and Congress from June to August. So it was a very hot election time during the summer, or campaigning time during the summer. But I enjoyed every minute of it. So that was the purpose of it, is basically the courts ruled that the maps were and the lines were gerrymandered. And so the special master needed time to redo the maps. And so that pushed the state senate and congressional lines or elections to August. I do want to point out the election date, which you've already mentioned, but I'll reiterate it again.
Yeah, very important.
For people who might have tuned in after. So the election date is August the 23rd. And also early voting started yesterday, August the 13th, and go all the way to August the 21st. If people are wanting to know where their polling locations are, because where you may vote for early voting may be different on election day. And what I'm finding out is, as I'm talking to my seniors, is that where they voted last year or even in June may be different, because I know some people are saying, where we went to the polls in June, we were told that's not our correct polling site anymore. We had to go somewhere else. So if you need to know where your polling location is, you can go to vote.nyc and then click on the link where it says find my polling location.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. I'm Terri Wisdom, and I'm here with, of course, Harlem Network News, and I'm here with our candidate for State Senator District 30, and that is in the person of Shana Harmongoff. So, Shana, you've spoken a little bit about what your main platforms are, the mental health, the seniors, housing. But can you just share with us what made you decide to run? I know that, we had a special election, I guess back in September, October, and we have a sitting state senator, Cordell Clear, who is you all are running against one another. You are challenging Cordell Clear. But what made you really feel that it was important and that there are some platforms and things that you really need to push forward. And what are some of the things that you feel you can really make happen in this district?
Thank you so much for that question. That's a very important question. I'm running because I love Harlem. I was born and raised here, and I've always wanted to make sure that Harlem and the community that I live in is represented is represented well. And for years, I just got tired of politicians saying all of these wonderful things, but not really producing, right? And I don't really hear a lot of politicians talk about mental health, which really has been a stigma in the Black and Brown community. And Harlem, which is what mostly 30 represents, is a Black and Brown community. Now, although we've come a long way and the stigma with mental health isn't as bad as it was years ago, there's still a stigma in the Black and Brown community regarding mental health and people not wanting to get help because of that stigma. So I felt like there needed to be more done on a mental health standpoint of it, and also with the housing the homeless. Before I went off to law school, I don't remember 125th Street going from Lexington Avenue to Frederick Douglass being pretty much oversaturated with drug dealers, people that need housing, right? And to me, coming back to New York after going to school and working in government, I just feel like more could have been done. And that's why I'm running, because for so long on that area of 125th Street, it has actually gotten worse. Now it's not been great, right? It's never been really great.
Right.
That's
No.
gotten worse over the years. And I don't really hear a lot of legislators talking about it. I hear they're talking about education, which is really important. Our schools, the proper resources. Mostly people are talking about housing. We definitely need housing, but people aren't talking about the drug epidemic that's happening here in Harlem. People aren't talking about the mental health issues that are going on in Harlem. I mean, as far as people are talking about it, but I'm talking about our elected officials. We hear all other things that they're talking about as far as gun violence, which gun violence is at an all-time high. And that's one of my platform areas. But a lot of times,
thank you for sharing.
Criminal justice reform, but not really about mental health or housing the homeless.
Yeah, all of these things, and I'm Terri Wisdom, and I'm here with our District 30 state senator candidate, Shana Harmongoff. But as we know, all of these things are a circle. It's a holistic situation. If you have a housing crisis, that is going to exacerbate into mental health. People are stressed. The drug problem out of stress and just displacement, that can happen. And I think that people are talking about it, but the question is, what are people doing about it? And I just think, I have seen some horrific sites, here in Harlem. I went to a wonderful program at the Schomburg Library, Daughters of the Movement, which was amazing. Sherry Belafonte, Ruby Dianasi Davis's daughter, Al Sharpton's daughter, Ash, it was just phenomenal. Our deputy borough president, Charlotte Sutton, weighed in a bit. It was just an amazing, I know I'm forgetting somebody, but it was just amazing, what they had to say, and was in story form. And then coming out of the Schomburg, there was a young woman just laying on the ground, dressed up, completely exposed, and people were kind of like just passing over her, so it was like, okay, what's happening here? And then I was driving across 125th Street by 124th, and this is all in a 24-hour period. And there was another young woman sitting on the curb, just, totally not there. And then someone else on that same block was sleeping on the bench on the bus stop. So it's kind of like, this is like a business as usual, and people just kind of walk by or try to, so I think we have to rethink this, because this is a problem. And this is our quality of life. It's a concern for those people. It's a concern for us. And then also, without blinking an eye, you hear on television that the mean rent in Manhattan is like $4,000 or $5,000. So how does this all come together? How are these high rises being built? Like on 124th, there's some place that says smile, and this is a place for the mind, body, and spirit. But then across the street, there's a man laying on the ground. So I
Right.
don't understand. It appears that the public, the developers are running the city. That's who it appears are running the city. And what can we do about these kinds of decisions that are being made? As a state senator, what does a state senator actually do? I
Right.
think our audience would like to know that. And what latitude do you have to really address some of these local problems?
Okay, so you've asked me like 5 questions.
I
all
know I have.
exactly from what I can remember from the beginning when you were talking about
Okay.
homeless people who needed housing, or the homeless that was on the streets after you were coming out of the Schomburg. I will
Yes.
say one of the things that I would like to do is, just like we see police officers on every corner, it seems like now that we have Mayor Adams in place, and he was a former officer. We
Mhm.
also have mental health counselors, social workers, and psychotherapists walk in the streets handling cases that they're trained and qualified to do. But that's easier said than done, right? That requires funding,
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
Me, as wanting to be the state senator, working with my city elected officials, trying to give more funding to the Department of Mental Health, and also private organizations who deal with mental health, so that way they can hire more employees, keep their office open, and the other employees can then walk the streets and handle those cases that they're trained and qualified to do. Because right now, if we see someone that may be overdosed on drugs in the street, our first initial reaction is to call 911 to try to make sure that they're safe.
Right.
Well,
Yes.
the police officers are the first responders. A lot of times, often than not, police officers aren't trained into how to properly assist that person who might have a mental health crisis or a drug overdose. But if we had a mental health counselor that's on the scene, right where when either the police officers come right then and there, or the first responders when situations call for it, then maybe a lot of issues might not escalate to future problems. Where I was actually driving, this happens often, where someone might have a mental health breakdown or might be overdosed on drugs, and I've seen them handcuffed. And I know now, there's legislation where police officers come out and ambulance come out, but oftentimes it takes the ambulance sometimes 45 minutes to an hour to get to a scene, right?
Mhm.
So if we gave more funding to the Department of Mental Health and private organizations who deal with mental health, they then can administer some of those services that police officers are not really trained to do so, right? So that's that situation. I know you mentioned about what is a state senator and what do they actually do.
Yes, yes, yes,
So
yes.
a state senator is someone who creates and makes changes to the laws of New York State, right? And that's another reason why I decided to run for state senate, because I'm well versed in the law, Miss Wisdom.
Okay,
I
thank you for
actually
sharing.
I actually went into law school, I got my master's in legal studies, and now I then got my Juris Doctorate degree. So I'm very well versed in the law. So it works hand in hand to why I'm running for this particular position. And also, to not only do I love Harlem, but because I worked in the state Senate previously for the past 4.5 years under the previous state senator, Brian.
Okay.
So district didn't really change as much. It just
Mhm.
extended more of West Harlem.
From iPhone 13
Okay,
Pro.
okay, okay. Well, thank you for sharing that. And what is the process? Because, we have our public officials coming in, and there's just a plethora of issues. And I think I'm not certain like what is holding people back from voting. but there's an
Mhm.
apathy about voting or just feeling like it doesn't matter, but yet at the
Right.
same point, people are complaining.
Right.
So what do you think that's about? You know, is there a lag in terms of when folks come in and getting things done, or, you know, is it just so laborious? What do you think those reasons are, and what can put the public at ease?
Well, I think you are looking at first of all, it's a new generation of people, right? You have the millennials who, if all of them were registered to vote and actually voted, could really determine any election, right? But the thing is, and a lot of them are actually becoming more civically engaged from 2020 back with the George Floyd situation and Breonna Taylor. A lot of them are becoming more civically engaged and wanting to know what's going on in the community. But I think the millennials and the Gen Zers and even some of the Generation X we're tired of, and I mentioned this earlier, of politicians saying all of these wonderful things and not really producing, right? And then a lot of times what I'm hearing too, as I'm on the campaign trail and just being out in the community before I even came into government, is we're tired of politicians showing up when the cameras are on. But where are you when someone, Susie, her son got shot, right? Or there's a tenant meeting. People are tired of politicians coming out for show, but not actually produce. And so I think that's why the voter turnout is so low with the younger generation, because really the voters who are voting today are our senior citizens.
Absolutely.
They are the ones who
Absolutely.
are determining a lot of these elections. However, if you had the millennials to be fully registered to vote and actually voted, they could determine the elections. But the thing is, they're sick and tired. Now, how can that be changed? Is people just doing, and politicians not only saying what they're going to do, but actually do it, right? And then two, for this Democratic primary, this second Democratic primary, Miss Wisdom, a lot of people aren't really even knowing about this Democratic primary. When I'm out there in the
that's why Harlem Network News is really
Right.
trying to push,
to get
and
the
we're
word
going to be taking some initiatives on voting and
right.
issues like every day this week, so
Right.
that we can disengage more people.
Right. And during this process of campaigning and even before, I usually always carry with me a stack of voter registration cards.
Okay.
More so now when I'm knocking on doors, interacting with voters out there in the community, talking to them and saying, hey, are you registered to vote? And they're like, no, I don't want to vote, but you should vote. That's why you should vote. Because if you don't vote, then others will then decide who that elected official would be. Wouldn't you like to have some say so in who that elected official should be? And then I encourage them the importance of voting and how our ancestors fought for us to have that right. And we should want to have a say on who that elected official should be, because if we don't vote, then we really can't complain of stuff not being done because we didn't voice our opinion.
Okay, I think, very critical, but we've got to like knock on some heads, knock on some doors,
Right.
to really get people to understand the connection, because I think it's just a feeling of devastation,
Right.
Particularly as we see these high rises go up in the community.
Right.
And, then there's a housing crisis. So it's just the things don't match and work together. Would you just say, since you mentioned Esplanade Gardens, if you would just say a few words about what's happening there, because I know there are some concerns. I know there was a 145 project that was pushed back by, I guess, the city council, as well as the community board, as well as the borough president. So where do things stand? Because we know there's also an infrastructure problem there.
Right.
Yes.
So I'll start with the 145th Street project and then end where I live with Esplanade Gardens, since that's where I live, and that could probably take a little longer. The 145th Street project I was not for, right? Because we do the infrastructure project. I was so glad that our city council member, Kristen Jordan, who also supported and endorsed for my race, that she was against the 140 Street project. Traffic already, I actually live in building 6 here in Esplanade, which is on the corner of 145th and Lenox, and traffic is absolutely horrendous right now. And to add more housing, although we need more housing, but to add more development in this area, and then it wasn't even, the housing wasn't even going to really be affordable, right? So to add more development on this area when traffic alone is already congested would have been a huge problem. And then the development buildings would have been extremely high, right? Like, so
Right.
I'm so glad that the city elected officials was against it. I'm so glad to Community Board 10 and other community boards who shed light on the issues with the 145th Street project, and all of the meetings that the community board had with the housing committees that they've had regarding this and their frustration with it. And I'm so glad that it was the developers withdrew, their proposal, and it's no longer happened. So I'm thankful that didn't go through, and I wasn't in support of that project. With Esplanade, where I live, it's personal because this is where I was raised, right? I was born here in Harlem. I was born and raised here. So I grew up in building 3. Now I live in building 6. And we need capital improvement work for our community, right? Do I think it needed to be done all at the same time? No, right? My building in building 6 where I live was one of the first buildings to start. Building 5 and building 6 were one of the first buildings that they actually started the capital improvement project. And during that time, it was COVID, where it was the heighten of COVID back in 2020. And so it was when you couldn't leave your house because it was, if people didn't really know how this COVID was going to affect us. And to be in this house, in my apartment, and not being able to go anywhere, and the capital improvement work of the construction going on in my terraces, and the noise and the plumbing, and a lot of apartments, the plumbing as they were working on it, pipes were bursting. We had water leak. I had a water leak, right? The person above me's pipe burst. During the construction process, it leaked in my apartment. Thank goodness I had renter's insurance, right?
Okay. Yeah, very, very important.
Important for people to have renter's insurance, because a lot of times the management office will tell you it's not covered. You need renter's insurance, right? And so I had to endure myself a lot during that process of COVID. And now COVID is still here, but we're now outside. But all of the other buildings who I've talked to, one of my dear friends who live in building 1, and I'm sure she doesn't mind me saying her name, Miss Gloria Lowe. She's had to endure a lot of damage in her apartment. I've seen firsthand from pictures of just the water damage, the holes in her.
Yes, we actually, Harlem Network News, we toured her apartment. So I'm very, very familiar. But just with that, where does HPD fit in? I didn't want to have you on.
A lot of people in Esplanade, we've called HPD, right? And although what people are telling you not people, but some of the board members were saying, don't call 311, don't call HPD, that we could be fined or whatever else. But the thing is, that's your right to do. If you're supposed to make complaints to HPD, you're supposed to call 311 if things aren't up to code or up to spec, or if you're having damages and you're trying to let the management company know, the contractors know, and nothing is being fixed. Honestly, more press conferences need to be held. Elected officials, community people need to come together and basically go down to HPD, because phone calls don't seem to be working. And basically hold press conferences and say, why is Esplanade in this state to where so much damage is happening, and
Mm.
it seems like the few people that are on the board are controlling the situation.
Mhm.
So my thing is, there's a lot of contractors. Why do we have to choose those particular contractors? And because so much damage has been happening into our community, we need to do something about it.
Right, yes, and I'm not sure, you know, you with the legal background, and I know we're winding down, you've got some other meetings, but what what I mean, is this like a legal matter? Do we need to be able to bring in you know, the district attorney's office, or you know, the attorney general's office? Because it seems like it's going in a circle, and I know
Right.
when I was on the community board, it's almost like a year ago that I think the contractors came and they said that the pool was going to be finished this summer, and the
Right.
pool is completely untouched.
Right.
You know, and I mean, this was said on a public record. So
Right.
I think that there's got to be some oversight. I don't know who that is, but we certainly, from Harlem Network News perspective, are keeping all eyes on Esplanade Gardens and the
And
one.
so we need also elected officials too, to make sure that HPD stay on the contractors and say, hey, you know, because we were supposed to finish this project within 3 years. And, you know, it's a lot of issues are happening in people's apartments. People are being displaced in their homes, right?
Yes,
People,
I'm clear.
so much damage is happening in people's home. They can't even live there,
Yeah,
right?
so this is unconscionable, and you know, it's adding to the problem of homelessness and everything else. And I know that you have to go, we're going to wrap up, but you know, when we said homelessness and just different things that are going on, and I guess this is a city, but also a federal and also a state, you know, because I know that we've had immigrants coming in from Texas, being brought to DC, and now in New York City, which has overloaded our shelter system. And there's a lot of issues and concerns. And of course, just given the circumstances that those people have gone through, the city is not turning them away, but we're, and you know, trying to help them, give them services, make them feel welcome. But we already have out of control situations with our people. So does the state fit into that? Where would a state senator address that? Or is it a city or a federal congressman?
So my thing is with that, I think that everyone should have housing, and whether you're an immigrant, I also think that we should tackle this homelessness crisis that we have here in our community as well. So the biggest thing is working when I'm the state senator, and even now working with our elected officials to make sure that everyone that needs housing, whether you're an immigrant or here in New York and need housing, that you get housing. I'm willing and able to talk to anyone that wants to talk to me or reach out to me about any of my platform areas. You can reach me on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram at Harmongoff for NY. Or you can you can email me at Shana at harmongoff4ny.org to discuss more on these issues, which are very important to our community. But people in our community need housing, and I'm willing to have the necessary conversations with the community and elected officials to make sure we get that under control.
Okay, well, thank you for that. Thank you for taking the time to come on. Good luck with the campaign. How is it going? Do we have any pollings, or how are things going?
Great. It's going great. It's a lot of events that's going on now because it's during Harlem Week.
Yes, absolutely.
Definitely staying busy. I actually have another event that I have to bounce to at 8.
Okay.
But it's going great, and just staying busy out there. And I love talking to the community, so it's going good.
Okay, well, we need more people that care and are engaged,
Yes.
and be active.
Yes.
And I'm Terri Wisdom. This is Harlem Network News, and I'm here with our state senator candidate, Shana Harmongoff. And of course, you know, equal time, we will look to have our sitting state senator Cordell Clear on to share her views. But most importantly, it's important that the community be informed, make their choices, and engage and get folks out to vote and get everybody active. You know, this is how we're going to win. It truly takes a village. And if you would share, Shana, just briefly, who are some of the folks that are endorsing it, please? Thank you.
So I am being endorsed by the wonderful Kristen Richardson Jordan, who is our city councilwoman, right? I've come to realize, and I'm very grateful and thankful for her endorsement. And she actually did an e-blast, a wonderful, beautiful e-blast, talking about her endorsement and why she decided to do that. Because I was very, when she won her race, I reached out to her to let her know if she needed anything, to let me know, and just kind of stayed in contact with her. So I'm very grateful for her endorsement.
Okay, well, thank you very much. And as I mentioned, this is Harlem Network News, and I'm Terri Wisdom. And we love bringing on our public officials, our artists, you know, everyone, so that our community can really be informed. So please, if you're watching, tell a friend to tell a friend. Also, we have an initiative to bring Brittany Griner home. You can go to our Facebook page, you can go to our Instagram, or you can email us so that we can email you. You can email us at harlemnetworknews@gmail.com, or you can call us at 646-261-5397, or DM us, or whatever the means are, so that you can really sign that petition. And we're looking, this is not coming from public officials, but coming from clergy and the community. And we're looking to also put a delegation to go right on over to Russia to check on our sister Brittany Griner and to bring her home. Because as we know, incarceration, we didn't even get to that conversation, is a major problem in our community, and now it's happening across the water. So we've got to look at that, and we've got to continue to say her name. And of course, as we close out, we want to just pray for all of those that have lost their lives to COVID, and the gunshot situation out of control. The young man, Darius Lee, who lived right on the block where the post office was, just being shot and killed. And, you know, it's a near and dear to me, because my son, who was 43, was shot and killed on the Shinnecock Reservation on November 5th. So I am a strong member of Harlem Mothers Save with Jackie Rowe Adams, and I was out there with Harlem Week and the Walk for Nonviolence. So, you know, we have to just continue the struggle. I was so happy to see Gwen Carr, the mother of Eric Garner, you know, having to get the street name for her son. You got to keep their legacy and their lives alive, so that we know they were not in vain. And, you know, these are all our children. So thank you, Shana. And we look forward, and good luck with the campaign, and keep engaging. Thank you. Harlem Network News on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. Please reach out and connect. If you have story ideas, or would like to make a donation, or would like to be a sponsor, please reach out to us. Thank you so much. And apologies, this is going to air on YouTube and Facebook. We're a little delayed, but it's going to happen. Thank you so much. Blessings. Take care. Take care. Thank you.